Four Knights of the Apocalypse Chapter 135 is out, and it was amazing. I was not expecting this chapter to not only be as good as it is, but it gives us some more answers to not only involving Camelot, but also Arthur himself. And also, this solidifies Pellegarde as not only one of my favorite characters in Four Knights, but probably the best and most well-rounded character in the story in and of itself, at least in my opinion. Before we get into the actual review, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. I've been really enjoying this arc so far, but I do have one criticism that I will get to towards the end of the chapter. So, let's get right into it. Chapter 135 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled The Conversation, which is literally the entire chapter, but it is intriguing in and of itself. But I want to pay attention to the cover image, because it literally shows Gowther's severed arm and leg somewhere in the woods around Pellegarde's castle. You know, this didn't come to mind previously, but since everybody fell into the Chaos Hole and ended up where Pellegarde's house is, imagine Gowther's limbs just falling on a random civilian in Camelot out of nowhere. That would be horrendously hilarious. That would be gruesomely funny. And I just would have really loved for that to be the cover image just for a quick gag. But anyway, the chapter starts off, and we are in Pellegarde's house, as Donnie and Anna are asking the simple question if this is like a trap or is this for real, as we see that Pellegarde actually invited them over for dinner, and this is insane, and I am agreeing with Donnie, as no rightful enemy would invite their enemies for a lovely dinner. So, yeah, and I just like in the background, Gowther is testing the wine, and he's like, yeah, nice acidity, fully bodied. This is very good wine. As you can tell that Donnie is actually kind of drooling over the fact that he hears that this is good wine. Pellegarde then enters the room and says, if you like it, then have all you like. An looks at him menacingly, but then notices that he brought his wife and son. And Pellegarde then asks them to introduce themselves. His wife introduces herself as Fiona, and basically asks if they are holy knights just like her husband. And they introduce their son, who is named Dick. Okay, look, every time I hear the name Dick for a character, I immediately think Dick Grayson from Batman. Nightwing, that man is awesome. Is Nightwing implying that this guy will become Nightwing? I'm getting off track. Pellegarde then sits down and then begins to say, imagine running into a legendary hero in this world. It's an honor, Goatson of Lust. I am, as then Gowther just says, you can keep quiet, please, as he then launches one of his telepathic mind invasion light arrows towards Pellegarde, but Pellegarde quickly blocks it with his chalice, as he says, are you sure about that? And that impresses Gowther, as Gowther just says, not bad. Go on then. As Pellegarde introduces himself as Pellegarde of the Four Evils, the Black Knight in King Arthur's service. And it says, now, what brings all of you here today? If you'd like to tell me, I'm all ears. An, obviously being the ever-cautious one here in the group outside of Gowther, ends up saying, is that a question or is it meant as an order? Pellegarde puts his cup down and is like, okay, how about we do this? We'll take turns asking and answering questions. We're all free to lie, of course. Now, as for me, I'm going to be completely open and honest, mind you. You've got a specialist in controlling people's minds, and by this point, An is very well known in Camelot for her magical prowess, since lying doesn't work on her and they get laid down and pancaked if they lie to her. I like how they're giving An credit where she is basically well due. Her power is very cool, and it is very well utilized within this world in her mission that she's been going through. Fiona ends up asking if they should leave Pellegarde and them alone, and Pellegarde just is like, oh yeah, could you bring us a few more bottles of wine? As his wife and son end up leaving the room. An then ends up asking, if that's your offer, then I'll go first. Tell me, what's behind all the strange things happening in Camelot? Why are people who were once dead now alive and well in this world? Obviously, the older brother is trying to tell her to just hold off for a second, but An goes on to say, should we even call them the same person at all? We saw a report that the moment a reborn person is taken back to Britannia, they simply disappear like they were made of smoke. Now we're going to be getting some more answers for the revived people of Camelot. Pellegarde tells them straight up that they're neither the real thing nor a mirage, telling them to call it like a illusion based on reality, maybe. Camelot holds the power to manifest people's strongest wishes. It used the land taken from Britannia to create an environment where you can live with your dead child just as they existed. More extreme wishes, such as to destroy or save the world, are impossible because they're simply too large and vaguely defined. However, things in Camelot here cannot wither and die. They retain their form forever. As you say though, if they set foot outside of Camelot, there's no saving them. It's how the world works. Already we got a really good explanation of how Camelot works. More or less using the magical energy that's within the ground of Britannia that Arthur has been taking for Camelot, people are actually able to bring forth the memories of the people that they've lost. They're not real, they're not fake, they're kind of somewhere in between, created from their memories, and begin to act exactly as if they were real people, and it's based off of that person's individual wish. But if the wish is too large or too vague, it is impossible. At least it has some sort of rules or boundaries towards it, making this not really something that can be used to destroy the world entirely, or to basically save the world either. It's nothing too grand like that, but at the very least, it can revive your loved ones. If there's anything else for it, I feel like this would be explained at some later point, and perhaps it could have something to do with Arthur's grander plans, but for now, it's literally just for basically bringing back the dead, or creating wishes for people so they could live their happiest lives in Camelot. After hearing this, the older brother begins to leave as he says he's kind of got a stomachache. He then drags his sister outside as well. Pellegarde asks, are those two with you as well? As An just answers, no, he just wanted to bring his sister back to Britannia from here. And Pellegarde says, and you're lending a hand, eh? You know, the more people you bring out of this world like that, the smaller our source for wishes, the more land we lose, and the worse King Arthur's mood gets. As An slams down on the table and is just like, it's King Arthur who's the cause of all this, isn't it? You have no right to criticize us for it. But as Pellegarde is eating his food, he doesn't really have any real reaction to An, as he's perfectly calm and states, I'm not criticizing you at all. In fact, it's perfectly valid for you to feel that way. Honestly, I haven't understood my king's thoughts for 10 years now, as this shocks Donnie and An and catches the eye of Gowther. Now I'm going to pause again, because there is a lot within these last 2 pages that we've got in terms of information, but the most important thing right now is that we have a time frame. That's right, Pellegarde gave us a 10-year time frame. And what's so important is that this is when Arthur had changed. This is where Arthur had changed from the person that Pellegarde once knew when he first started serving him, and how he lost interest, or at least doesn't understand what Arthur is thinking anymore. Because we had no idea when Arthur went through his change, when he wanted to make a world just for humans and humans alone, when he created the Chaos Staves, created the Chaos Dimension of Camelot, stealing land from Britannia. We had no idea where the time frame was, but now we have a time frame of 10 years before the time skip. Meaning, this was back when like Tristan and Lancelot were like 8 years old. And not only that, if my math is right, Arthur's change happens 2 years before Lancelot disappears for 6 years. And this all happened around the time when all the 4 knights were around 8 years old. Obviously, the whole thing with Percival had already started and happened already, and he was being raised on God's finger. But at that point, Arthur had not really gone how he is right now. Meaning that around that time, Arthur was still relatively calm and wasn't actively going upon war or enacting his will upon others. At least that's what I'm getting from Pellegarde's actions. But yeah, that's incredibly interesting. We finally have a time frame for when Arthur seemingly started to act the way he does. That is very vital information that Pellegarde is giving us. And I feel like we're going to be gearing up for what caused Arthur to change at some later point. But for now, let's get back to the story. Pellegarde, after answering the question, is about to be like, alright, it's my turn to ask the question now, but Gowther's like, no, I think I'm up next now. He begins to ask the question, are those two with you as well? Which was his question, and that was kind of a slip up on Pellegarde, as obviously this is more like Pellegarde asking if they're allies or friends or something like that. As Pellegarde then laughs, is like, so that's your game, eh? Well, excellent. Throw another question at me then. And Gowther is about to ask Pellegarde a question, but An says, let me ask the question instead. And that is the more rightful way to do so, as Pellegarde's like, you're no fun. That's the face he's giving off right now. And obviously, it's better for An to ask the questions anyway due to her magic power. But An just asks him square up. Are you our ally or are you our enemy? Because I sense no hostility, no murderous intent from you whatsoever. Pellegarde says, oh, I see. Well then, how about I answer it like this? Yeah, I'm your ally, but also your enemy. I mean, that's kind of how he's kind of been. It is confusing, even for the main group, because even Donnie's like, Percival has said this too, that Pellegarde isn't really a bad guy. But if not, why are you duty-bound by Arthur? And we then take a look outside as Pellegarde stares at his wife and son. As he goes on to narrate and give us his backstory, stating, at the age of 4, my son Dick died after falling off a horse. If he was alive, he'd be about as old as you guys by now. That could also explain why Pellegarde was so attached to Percival. Maybe he saw how his son would have ended up if he had survived his illness or injury when he was young. Also, this probably nips in the bud of the Percival's secretly Pellegarde's original son theory. That is something that's been going around. I wanted that to be the case, but this doesn't really seem like it is. I'm not too bummed about it. But then it's like, so you serve Arthur to keep your son safe then? But Pellegarde's like, not that, no. I fully accepted the death of my son. What you see is simply an illusion crafted by Camelot. His real soul is safely resting in heaven, I'm sure. I've dreamed it many times though, of course. Riding with my son, teaching him the sword, sharing a drink, just those silly kinds of things. An then begins to ask, but if you're that over it, then who even wants your son here? As he then realizes, Pellegarde gives her the answer. Who else could it be? It's Fiona. As you see Pellegarde just staring at his wife very happily at the illusion of their son, going on to say that his wife wished she could spend an eternity with their son. He truly meant everything to her and was an irreplaceable treasure. I know. He even goes on to say, I know well enough that this world's a big mistake, but do you want me to take him from my wife? I just can't do that. Heck, this is the main reason why Pellegarde isn't swapping sides. He's staying in Camelot for his wife to spend time with the son that they lost so many years ago. And that is just heartbreaking. He doesn't like how Arthur has been acting lately. He doesn't like everything that he's doing, but he's doing it so his wife can live out the dream with the child that they love so much. He's accepted everything. He's accepted not only the world that Arthur created as a mistake, but he accepted his son's death and that the world is a cruel place. Pellegarde is very realistic, and he's dealt with his emotions, but he doesn't want to take anything away from his wife. And I think that's heartbreakingly beautiful. He can't do anything about it because he wants his family. He wants the person he loves most in the world right now to be happy no matter what. We then take a break from the main group for a bit as we see the big brother sitting on the side outside the house with his sister as he begins to cry and basically is like, it's nothing at all. I'm not crying, but it's not your fault at all. It's all mine. It was just so hard to lose you. So sad I couldn't believe it. So when I heard about Camelot, I ignored Mom's pleas and left home. I'm sure Mom wishes I could take you back. I know how happy she would, or that's what I decided. But I was wrong. I was the only one obsessing over you. So much so that I left our worried mother all alone for it. As in the next panel, the little sister begins to fade away. As the brother says, I'm sorry. I'm sure you're up in heaven right now smiling. So it's time to, as when he looks over, the sister is gone. As he fully accepts her death, his wish no longer exists. So there's another way for these illusions to disappear. If these people kind of come to terms with the fact that not only they're illusions, but also that they accept that their loved ones are gone. That is what's binding everyone to Camelot right now, to see their loved ones again because they haven't gotten over it. And that's something they truly wish for. But accepting it is a key to just moving on. Not dwelling on the past and how they were, but to live on for them. Not be bound by their memories, but to use those memories to live on with your life as fully and as well as you possibly can. Because you can't bring the dead back to life. And I think that's what Nakaba is going for with this chapter, most likely, as well as the message of Camelot and why it's not really right. As when the sister disappears, Pellegarde begins to talk and says, haven't any of you ever wished for it in your life? The return of a beloved friend, as a panel of Percival flashes by. Pellegarde says, that's my question. Will you answer it for me? Azan says, of course. Many times, in fact. That's how deep the sense of loss ran for us. But if we did that, it'd be pretty hard for the real him to come back, wouldn't it? As Pellegarde drops his glass in shock, he's like, wait. As An looks at him sternly, with the final image being her saying Percival is actually alive, with an image of a sleeping Percival with long-ass hair, ending the chapter. Now then, I really like this chapter, but I am very torn on the ending that Percival is alive. Reason being, it has been 7 goddamn chapters since the guy died. I believe it is way, and I mean way too soon for Percival to come back. I do like the reveal, but at the same time, narratively, I really don't like this reveal. Now, obviously, this could just be that Percival's body is still alive, but his soul is gone, and his body is still aging, that's why his hair is growing up, and perhaps it's still a vessel that his soul can return to at one point. But An's dialogue implies that Percival is going to return at some point. Then again, she got angry when people were talking about Percival's death and all that, so it's very weird. I feel very weird about this right now. But either way, it all depends on the execution. Plus, I think Meliodas was dead longer than, well, Percival was in this series at this point, which that kind of put a damper on things, but it all depends on how he comes back. So, depending on how Percival comes back, I'm fine with this reveal. If not, I really don't like. But other than that, this chapter was great. We got more insight into Pellegarde, his reasons for serving Camelot. We learn more about Camelot itself and why people were being revived. We get a time frame for when Arthur started acting batshit crazy and started being the true king of chaos. And it solidifies for me that Pellegarde is one of the best characters in the series. Don't at me, you know it to be true. But yeah, that's basically the chapter. I enjoyed it. I'm not too fond of the ending, but depending on where it goes and how it's handled, I'll be okay with it and I'll deal with it. And everything else was just amazing. But what did you guys think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make on this channel and shows you want to see more. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.